deals before they're gone. Must end soon. Visit your nearest store or pcworldbusiness.co.uk/megadeals. T's and C's apply. Excludes Inc. and third-party sellers. Visit website for price promise details. Claim within 7 days.
With Parliament suspended, what does this mean for Brexit? Will there be a vote of no confidence? A general election? Turbulent times lie ahead, and our team of experts are uniquely placed to give you the inside track. Turn to The Telegraph for clarity. Subscribe now at telegraph.co.uk.
Good morning. It is 8 a.m. at the Steve Jobs Theater in Cupertino, California. It's 11 a.m. on Wall Street. Morgan Brennan at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Markets down about 100 points here. Going to start with Apple's special event today, set to kick off from the Steve Jobs Theater in Cupertino in just under 2 hours. Josh Lipton is there live and joins us now with what analysts, investors, and importantly, reviewers are all expecting. Hey, Josh.
So, Carl, Apple's biggest day of the year just about to kick off here right behind me at the Steve Jobs Theater, as you mentioned. Now, listen, analysts think they have a pretty good beat on what's coming. They're looking for 3 new iPhones, faster processor, improved camera system, maybe stronger waterproofing and shatter resistance. Big question here for investors is pricing, though. What is Tim Cook going to charge you, Carl, for those new models? I've talked to some analysts who think he's going to keep pricing basically constant. No big change from the current lineup, which, remember, starts at roughly $750, $1,000, and $1,100. Expectations for these new models we know are muted on the street. Checked in with Gene Munster over at Loop Ventures. Asked him, what does he think total iPhone units will do in that important holiday quarter? I know Munster's looking for 63.5 million. That would actually be a dip of 1% year over year. Now, in addition to iPhones, of course, a lot of focus is going to be on those wearables, Carl. We are looking for a new watch. Wearables have been a bright spot for this company, even as the iPhone franchise has been under pressure. Apple has sold an estimated 80 million watches now and 50 million AirPods. In fact, if you combine wearables and services, according to Apple, you're now approaching the size of a Fortune 50 company. And speaking of those services, it's been 6 months since Apple unveiled those new ones, and investors still have plenty of questions about Apple TV Plus. What are they going to charge you for that service? Reportedly, they were at least considering $10 a month and availability. Don't sleep on Apple Arcade either, the new gaming service. Analysts are going to be quick to tell you, Carl, there are 1.5 billion people playing cell phone games, so a potentially big market opportunity. What else might we see here today? Who knows? Maybe some noise-canceling AirPods, maybe a new Apple TV, faster processor. That would be well-timed, given these new services on the way, and perhaps news on that new MacBook Pro. Guys, back to you.
All right, Josh, stick with us, and let's bring in the editor-in-chief of The Verge, Nilay Patel, who is also there on site. Nilay, good morning.
Good morning.
So let me start an argument with you, because that's fun, especially with you. So I would argue, okay, that better cameras don't sell iPhones. Network upgrades and bigger screens sell iPhones. So this whole exercise today for investors, take it or leave it.
Yeah, I think the real answer here is in the names. Last year you had the iPhone XR, the XS, the XS Max. This year, I think you're going to see an iPhone 11, the default iPhone. The XR outsold all the other iPhones last year. Then you're going to see an 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max. A big question I have is how they're going to differentiate those Pro models, if that's what they do, how they're going to differentiate those Pro models beyond just it has a third camera, which is what the big rumor is. And if the iPhone 11 is the default iPhone, the one they're expecting you to get, then the real question becomes how many of those services and accessories can they attach? You buy an iPhone 11 at a lower ASP, Are you going to buy AirPods? Are you going to buy an Apple Watch? Are you going to buy the entire suite of services? I expect to hear a lot about that game service today. I think that's a really interesting play for Apple, especially as they kick off a new consumer round of marketing. It is extremely differentiated compared to, say, the TV service, where I think there's still a lot of question marks.
Nilay, to that point, I mean, it really is increasingly all about that installed base and leveraging that. Do you think maybe, and even more so than previous September events that we've seen from Apple, do you think that the services, do you think that the ecosystem and what these devices can enable in terms of a stickier installed base is really going to be the biggest focus here today?
I think they know they have a really sticky installed base. At least, as long as you're talking to the customers in the U.S., you're not going to leave iMessage. I think we've talked about this so many times. You're not going to leave iMessage. You're going to stay right with those blue bubbles. So now Apple has to convince you that all of their other services are worth it. And I think their goal is to present a unified vision for what living in the iOS ecosystem looks like. And I'm stuck in it. You're stuck in it. It's pretty good, but it can get better. And there's some things, particularly, John, around the camera, as you brought up. Google's camera's kind of better. Samsung's camera's really good. They've got to make a big play to say, hey, this is
and they're not
one of the most
outselling
important
the
things you do
iPhone,
with
right?
your phone.
I mean, good cameras, they only get you so far.
Yeah, they're not outselling the iPhone. I think they absolutely only get you so far. It's that ecosystem that keeps you in, but I think they want to beat them on the tech specs too. So that balance of, hey, we know we got you, here's some more stuff, just go ahead and buy it, versus, hey, you're the leader and you feel good about the restrictions of this ecosystem, that's the balance they have to strike.
So, Nilay, what do you make of, like, when the Journal this week says they got to emphasize accessories, even though the percentage of overall revenue for the 9 months of the year so far, that's iPhone, is, down 15%? I mean, what's more important right now?
I don't think anything is more important than iPhone. I just don't think those huge year-over-year sales gains are going to appear. They don't have any more markets to unlock. There's no more giant Chinese market, no more huge international carriers to unlock for them. So now it's really, if you listen to Tim Cook, we got to make upgrading easier. We got to make trade-ins easier so they feel like subsidies. What they're looking to do is get all those people who are still happy with the 6S, happy with their headphone jack. They got to present a compelling case to upgrade, buy those AirPods, buy that Apple Watch, sign up for Apple Music. It's a lot of stuff to buy if you're already kind of happy with your iPhone. And iPhones, iOS 13 is not significantly different than previous versions of iOS. They've got to make a sale about all the things you can do. Otherwise, people are just going to hold tight.
Josh, I realize we're still 2 hours out from this event, but you've covered a number of these over the years. What does it feel like? What's the sentiment on the ground? How does it compare to previous events?
Listen, more, at these events, you can always expect Tim Cook to take the stage. He'll be there with Jeff Williams and Phil Schiller. They're going to bring a lot of enthusiasm to this event, a lot of excitement. You're going to hear the theater there, which is being live streamed, the event, a lot of Apple employees. So clearly, we're at the Steve Jobs Theater. We're here in Cupertino, California. So the excitement will be there. We'll see how, of course, investors react and consumers react. Like I said, expectations are pretty muted. On the other hand, listen, there are analysts who say there's still a lot of people on really old iPhones, an estimated 200 million iPhone 6 or earlier. That's potentially a lot of people who may think about upgrading here to the faster process, to the improved camera system. We'll find out.
And guys, I would just once again argue, and Neil, I'm trying to start an argument with you. You're not playing. That today,
such a troublemaker.
Yeah, I am. I like to make trouble. Today doesn't really matter as long as Apple doesn't screw it up, right? Because next year we expect we're going to get a 5G iPhone network upgrade with the phone. We haven't had that since the iPhone 5 in 2012. That could really potentially move the needle if they actually build in new capabilities and software to take advantage of 5G. But just as long as they don't screw this up, and they tell a decent story about new cameras and new services and just kind of tread water, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you want an argument, I don't think it's fine. I don't think Apple can risk their position. They can't take a step back. And so if they really come out and it is a bunch of new cameras and it is really expensive, well, then they're not going to attract the number of switchers, the number of upgraders they need. And they need to keep that upgrade rate high, really high, in order to maintain their numbers, maintain their position. But you're right, they're taking a sort of year delay versus, the Samsungs and LGs and OnePluses of the world to put out a 5G phone. I think that's actually fine. These networks are far but ready. Verizon can't even cover, they're announcing we've got NFL stadiums. It's actually just certain areas of an NFL stadium. They can't even get that much range. So these networks aren't ready. I think if Apple can hit the big network deployment moment with the 5G iPhone. Those are two upgrades you're going to make at once. You probably pay a little bit more extra for the 5G. You're going to get a new phone that can address that network. That is a compelling upgrade. So I do think you're right there. But they cannot take their eye off the ball. They can't iPhone 7 this one and put out a phone with basically the same but a different color. They've got to deliver on a vision here, especially if they want those service attach rates to go up.
I like that. iPhone 7 as a verb. Nilay Patel, Josh Lipton, thank you.
We still have a lot more to come on Apple. Roger McNamee weighs in with his expectations at the bottom of the hour. And next, North Carolina State Attorney General Josh Stein on his antitrust investigations into both Google and Facebook. We got a big show of Squawk Alley continuing after this break. Dow's down 73. Tech stocks are selling off. Stay with us.
When did you see the sign?
When I needed to.
I can find and fund my car, from a Mini to a Jaguar.
Feel good car buying from findandfundmycar.com is the place where you can find quality used cars from trusted dealers rated by you, and where you can fund your car with finance to fit your budget. It's feel good car buying all in one place.
Shouldn't be a carry on, choose findandfundmycar.com.
Moving from one rental home to another is so expensive.
Last time, we had to pay hundreds to move in, the first month's rent.
And then a big deposit.
With Romans, it doesn't have to be like this.
It doesn't.
At Romans, you really can move in from just £36, plus your first month's rent.
And that's it.
Nothing more to add. Move in from just £36, plus your first month's rent. With Romans.
No deposit.
No problem.
Romans, your trusted local property experts at romans.co.uk. Conditions and monthly fee apply.
LinkedIn Learning offers more than 14,000 online courses to help you achieve your goals. Its short video tutorials cover business, technology, and creative skills employers look for at every level, all taught by real-world industry experts. And new courses are added every week. Plus, LinkedIn Learning is personalized, recommending courses based on your interests and skills. Start your free trial at linkedinlearning.com. Cancel within the first month to avoid any charges.
For people who want to feel happier, stronger, fitter, get further, faster, better. For people who want to, but don't always manage to. It doesn't matter how you want to do it, who you want to do it with. It matters that you want to. Virgin Active. We'll find a way for you. Join in September and get 15% off each month on 12-month memberships. Visit virginactive.co.uk. Participating gyms. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Squawk Alley. 2 antitrust investigations underway. 50 state attorneys general launching a probe into Google. Separately, there's a multi-state investigation into Facebook as well, being led by New York. Joining us now is one of the state AGs involved in both Google and Facebook probes, Josh Stein of North Carolina. Mr. Attorney General, thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
I want to start with Google here, because certainly advertising practices have been a source of consternation from a number of companies over the years. It's been looked at by regulators over the years for that business. Even Google comes out and says, we've answered many questions on these issues over many years in the U.S. and overseas, and that this is, quote, not new for us. But it's new for you, in a sense. Why now? Why are you looking to probe this business now?
Well, thanks. Think how important the internet is to your and my lives. It's how we communicate with family and friends. It's how we do our work or conduct business. It's how we watch TV, sports, get the news. It really is the critical infrastructure of the 21st century. And it's hard to imagine back 20 years ago when it hardly even existed. It was just in its absolute infancy. And where we are today, none of us could have possibly imagined. But now we have these massive big tech companies that have dominance in their markets, and they have the ability to really squelch the innovation that we have all benefited so much from through the internet. And that's really what we're looking at with Google and with Facebook, is to make sure that these massive market players, these dominant actors, are not misusing their power in order to harm consumers and squelch competition.
So the president of Microsoft, Brad Smith, was on CNBC earlier today, and one of the things that he talked about in light of the Microsoft antitrust woes that took place years ago was that situation for that company lasted 29 years, but that was still less time than it took for IBM or AT&T. What is your timeline for these investigations, whether it is Google or whether it is Facebook, and are you prepared for it to last for decades?
Well, we surely hope it does not require decades. And I will frankly say that an outgrowth of the Microsoft investigation was the creation of Google. Because Microsoft was in some ways constrained, Google saw a market opportunity and came into the world and offered their product, which so many people benefit from. So the whole purpose is companies do the investigation, hopefully in a timely fashion. None of us want this to go on for decades. In a timely fashion, reach some resolution, should that be the appropriate outcome.
I think some would disagree about what set Google up to succeed, but I wonder what your focus is. Is it on consumer harm from these companies, or is it more on suppression of innovation? Because it seems like those are different standards. Consumer harm perhaps having to do more with pricing action and how much people have to pay. Suppression of competition having more to do with whether they're using their monopoly to unfairly gain advantage over other service providers.
And they're not mutually exclusive. And consumer harm can be more than just the prices you pay. Although if Google were manipulating its advertising power to raise the prices that consumers pay, then there is consumer harm in regards to prices. But we also, in terms of the services that are available to us and the quality of those services, do these companies that have such market dominant positions adequately value our privacy? Are they safeguarding our information to the same extent they would if there were real competitors in the market against them? So there are other ways to evaluate consumer harm. And then as it relates to suppressing competition, that also has an impact on consumers, because there is a whole wave of possible new businesses out there that want to take the internet in directions that none of us can even imagine that can make our lives better. But if they are strangled on the vine, if they never even come to fruition, then all of that opportunity, growth, and value is denied to consumers, denied to the people of North Carolina, and that's a real concern to the people of North Carolina.
So with that in mind, I wonder, is there a fine large enough to satisfy this group of AGs? Because these companies' revenues are enormous. It's hard to imagine them feeling that pain unless you get a change in business practices. Is that what you're after?
Yeah, there's a range of possible remedies depending on what the investigation concludes. But I think it really is premature to talk about what the appropriate remedy is, whether it's a fine or it's some other type of remedy, relief, until we've done the investigation. We just wanted to start this work. We wanted people to know that we are gravely concerned and we're beginning this work. But let's do the investigation, see what the evidence shows, and then go where it leads us.
North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein, thanks for joining us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
And coming up, it's been 20 years of Alibaba and its most visible co-founder, Jack Ma. He is officially stepping down today. So what do the next 20 look like without him at the helm? We will discuss after the break. And later, an exclusive with the head of Google Cloud in his first ever broadcast appearance. That's all ahead in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
Franklin Templeton presents Elevate Your Game.
This one shouldn't take long. Of course, if it had a cover, I might not be bothered. Can't see what's under there. And then they'd have chained the back wheel. It would have taken me much longer, especially if the chain's off the ground. Makes it harder to cut. This one doesn't even have a lock on the front. So, in the time I've been talking to you, I've nicked it.
Over 9,000 scooters and motorbikes were stolen in London last year. Lock your bike, chain the rear wheel, and cover it to make it harder to steal. Lock, chain, cover. The Met Police.
For people who want to feel happier, stronger, fitter, get further, faster, better. For people who want to, but don't always manage to. It doesn't matter how you want to do it, who you want to do it with. It matters that you want to. Virgin Active. We'll find a way for you. Join in September and get 15% off each month on 12-month memberships. Visit virginactive.co.uk. Participating gyms. Terms and conditions apply.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do what moves you. Over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Nurses like you love the RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Here's why.
It's an easy way to get your CPD hours.
There are loads of job opportunities on the day.
The free workshops are great for learning something new.
It's an event just for us. The RCNI Nursing Careers and Jobs Fair. Coming to London on the 17th and 18th of September. Register now for free entry. Search RCNI events.
Strings and things, 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 and strings, strings, strings and things, strings, strings, strings and things, strings, strings, strings and things, strings and.
Now there's a whole range of strings and things called strings and things, including cheese strings, yollies, and new cheese shapes. Find them all in the cheese and yogurt aisle.
Strings and things.
1 in 2 people believe they should check their work email on holiday. 1 in 3 believe it's okay to eat a colleague's lunch. And 1 in 14 believe it's okay to steal loo roll from work. People believe all sorts of strange things. Some people believe that insurance companies try to avoid paying claims. But last year, Zurich paid 99% of insurance claims made by their UK customers. Zurich, an insurance company you can believe in. To find out more, visit zurich.co.uk/99.
Welcome back. Is Elon Musk asleep at the wheel when it comes to Tesla's energy business? That's the narrative coming from Wall Street right now. But growth in the company's energy storage business has some analysts changing their tune. Phil LeBeau is in Norwich, Connecticut with a story. Phil.
Hey, Morgan, and certainly when it comes to Solar City, there are very few who believe that that business is being run well right now, given the recent results. But when it comes to energy storage, well, Tesla in the second quarter showed growth of 81% in terms of megawatts installed. We went up to Brattleboro, Vermont, and in Brattleboro, we came across the Cappy family. They have 2 Tesla Powerwalls installed in the cellar of their home. This is allowing them not to deal with blackouts whenever they happen up in that area. They also allow Green Mountain Power, which is the local utility, to draw energy off of their power walls whenever they're needed in that area. In fact, Green Mountain Power says the growth in demand for these power walls and energy storage is something that they're looking to expand in the future.
With the amount of solar coming on in the region and in Vermont, they really do provide a grid stability resource. So they really help you orchestrate the energy on this system in a way that is very cost effective as well as incredibly reliable, not just at the home level, but at the grid level.
Okay, for Tesla as a company, energy is still a small component in terms of revenue, generating just 5.7% of the company's revenue in the second quarter. Analysts look at energy storage and they say it's a nice business, but there are limited opportunities for growth.
Tesla has a great electric car business. They need all of the batteries they can possibly get, especially if they're going to do the pickup truck and the semi. So I don't quite understand why it is that they are in the business of trying to do stationary storage.
Tesla still believes in stationary storage. These are some of the power packs that are here at this solar farm in Norwich, Connecticut. Guys, there are 30 power packs here. They have enough power to generate or to cover and run about 700 homes a year. And Tesla believes this is just the start of what it can do in the future in terms of expanding its energy storage business.
Phil, not to change the topic too much, but there's so much discussion about the Frankfurt Auto Show and the way the Europeans are getting into electric. Yep. We've seen Musk try to troll Porsche in the past week. What's the sense of what they're going to face in the year ahead?
I think it's not a whole lot in the year ahead. Porsche is probably the biggest threat, and that's really on the very upper end. Look, Volkswagen says it's going to have more electric vehicles, as do other automakers. But those are plans at this point, Carl. It's not like you're going to see a rush of electric vehicles coming in the next 12 months. And that's why when you look at analysts and they're asked continually, what's the biggest threat to Tesla? They simply don't see it on the horizon. It's maybe 3 or 4 years down the road, but not within the next 12 months.
A lot of angles to consider on that name. Phil, we know you'll cover them all. Our Phil LeBeau this morning on Tesla. When we come back, early Facebook and Google investor Roger McNamee is going to join us, talk about these state attorneys general opening the antitrust probes into Facebook and Google. In the meantime, major averages pretty steady here. Dow's down 78. We're right below 2960. We're back in a minute.
What do you look for when you trade?
I want free access to research.
Can find and fund my car, from a Mini to a Jaguar.
Feel good car buying from findandfundmycar.com is the place where you can find quality used cars from trusted dealers rated by you, and where you can fund your car with finance to fit your budget. It's feel good car buying all in one place.
Shouldn't be a carry on. Choose findandfundmycar.com.
We can't get your online shopping delivered right away. We can't make the kettle boil any faster. And sorry, we can't speed up the traffic in Sutton Coldfield. But we can speed up the way you submit an energy meter reading. The British Gas app lets you book an engineer, as well as claim rewards and manage your account all within minutes. So you can spend less time running your home and more time enjoying it. Download the British Gas app today.
This one shouldn't take long. Of course, if it had a cover, I might not be bothered. Can't see what's under there. And then they'd have chained the back wheel. It would have taken me much longer, especially if the chain's off the ground. Makes it harder to cut. This one doesn't even have a lock on the front. So, in the time I've been talking to you, I've nicked it.
Over 9,000 scooters and motorbikes were stolen in London last year. Lock your bike, chain the rear wheel, and cover it to make it harder to steal. Lock, chain, cover. The Met Police.
For people who want to feel happier, stronger, fitter, get further, faster, better. For people who want to, but don't always manage to. It doesn't matter how you want to do it, who you want to do it with. It matters that you want to. Virgin Active. We'll find a way for you. Join in September and get 15% off each month on 12-month memberships. Visit virginactive.co.uk. Participating gyms. Terms and conditions apply.
Casa Bacardi is back, bringing a party with an unmissable lineup and tasty rum cocktails to London. With Bacardi's new Sound of Rum crew, featuring live sets from One Asen and P Money, MCing from Harry Pinero, and loads more. The perfect recipe for an epic night out. Casa Bacardi at Box Park Croydon on September 14th. For more info and to get your tickets now, head to boxpark.co.uk. Do over 18s only. Drink aware for the facts.
Apple's event about 90 minutes away. Some key questions looming over its push into services. Our Julia Borston's in Cupertino with a closer look at what investors are expecting. We already know, Julia, what John thinks about their content offering so far. What's Hollywood saying?
Well, I think the key thing about today's announcements, Carl, is that we could get some real insight into how Apple's push to grow its services business is going, especially as sales of its core iPhones are really slowing down. Now, the first service we're going to be watching is Apple TV Plus. While Apple has said that it will launch this fall, we are awaiting an exact launch date as well as a cost for the service. We're expecting it to cost around $10 a month. And we'll also be listening to see if we get any more details on what content will be available at launch. Plus, we are waiting to see whether Apple bundles together its TV Plus service with the other services like Apple Music. Analyst Tony Sacconaghi saying, quote, "We have previously argued bundling could be a potential solution to Apple TV Plus's scale disadvantage relative to Netflix and Disney Plus." The second service we're watching is Apple Arcade. We're waiting a launch date as well as a price tag. That one is expected to be $5 a month. Now, third, we'll see if we get any updates on Apple News, perhaps some subscription numbers. This after reports that publishing partners aren't necessarily happy with how that service is going for them. Now, the fourth topic to watch here is Apple Card. While it launched just about 3 weeks ago, we'll see if Apple gives us any insight into early signups for the card or transaction activity, and we'll see whether any expanded financial services are in the works. Now, we have to remember Apple is known for sometimes surprising the folks here with one more thing. We'll see if they have any of that kind of additional news for us today, but certainly services in focus. Guys, back to you.
All right, Julia, good stuff. Thank you. Joining us from London today with his expectations and a whole lot more, Elevation Partners co-founder and early Facebook and Google investor, Roger McNamee. Roger, good to see you. Good morning.
Hey, Carl, how are you?
I'm good. What do you think's on the line on this Apple event day, and how do you think it differs from event days of the past?
So, Carl, my read of this is a little bit different than I think has been the conventional wisdom. I believe that Apple's big opportunity in iPhone is to take market share away from Android rather than to just focus on services. I think the services play, it's going to matter, but I don't expect miracles to happen quickly there. What I think they're trying to do now is to move away from the strategy when the industry was growing, which focused on App Store and iTunes, to focusing on the place where they have the greatest competitive advantage over Android, which is privacy. And I think all of this news, we're going to talk in a few minutes about state attorneys general coming after Google and Facebook. I think all of this news around privacy really plays to Apple's hand. And if we look at iOS 13, it doesn't really matter what the hardware is that it runs on. The advantages on privacy and security are becoming so huge that I really think people will not miss them. They will not ignore that difference any longer. And I'm actually more hopeful on Apple's ability to gain share than I think is the conventional wisdom, but it remains to be seen.
Rogers, is this a rebuilding year, though? I mean, you look at 5G is arguably coming next year, and so that cycle should be bigger than this one. Apple's got a stable and loyal base, but I don't know that anybody expects that this iPhone season is going to blow the doors off, even if they do gain some high-end share from Android.
Yeah, John, I think that's exactly right. I mean, if for people who care about features, Android's got some significant advantages right now. And Apple will, in 2020, do a lot of the things that Android is bringing to market piecemeal in 2019. I don't think any of that's really going to matter. I think at the end of the day, people are going to make choices on platforms relative to how important they think privacy is. And people who value privacy are going to be increasingly iPhone adopters. And the thing that I discover when I talk to people in the field is that there are a lot of long-time Android people who are beginning to rethink that as news comes out about what happens to the stuff that you have on an Android, how things wind up in your Facebook account or wind up in other places without you realizing it. And so I don't know that Apple can be successful with this focus in iOS 13 on privacy, but I am, as a consumer, really interested in it. I think the Apple Card is a really important step on privacy, particularly in combination with Apple Pay, and that Apple's advantage there is a really big deal. But I think, John, the way you're framing this from a hardware point of view, this is probably not going to be a big deal.
Just to dig into privacy quickly, Roger, a little bit more here, and I know you just mentioned Apple Card, which is a good example of this, but do you think Apple's actually really communicating enough just how important privacy is and how important it is to its business model?
I don't think so. I think that's exactly the right question. I think Apple has been culturally in this metaphor of show, don't tell for so long that at this moment in time when telling actually could be really advantageous, they don't have the muscle tone fully down. When I talk to people inside Apple, I think they're very aware of this issue, and I just think that it's a big company, and so it's hard to make that change. I wish they would be more explicit about this stuff, and I think that the flurry of news last week when Google pointed out the security flaw that was taking place, and then Apple had to respond by pointing out that it was in China and mostly targeted at the Uyghur minority in China, that if felt to me like a really significant change in Apple's communication strategy, that they, on this one issue, I think are going to be more proactive. So my fingers are crossed as a shareholder that they're going to be more forceful in making these points, because it's pretty obvious that Google's going to take advantage of any weakness to criticize Apple.
Well, speaking of Google, let's turn to that crackdown on big tech that you just referenced, Roger. Two of your most successful early investments under pressure as these state attorneys general launch probes into Google and Facebook. I just wonder what you made of yesterday's announcement. We've already talked to a slew of these AGs. I mean, how much of this is grandstanding and how much do you think could be significant?
It's hard to say how much of this is purely political. What is clear to me, though, is that when you get 48 state attorneys